Hi everyone, Jane here. It's a funny thing. Once you notice something, you start noticing it more often. And I just wanted to point something out. To the right of this angelic Jesus looking figure, the guy to the immediate right has this big red bump on his head. Now I'm wondering if this is like God sealing his people, the seal of protection. You belong to God. And here's another one. Now this was from a Google search for Daniel. So it might be some artwork of Daniel, but there's that mark or the bump or whatever you want to call it. It's sure looks to me like a mark of God, like as in Revelation when the 144,000 are sealed by God. Okay, and um, as you probably notice, I talk things over out loud, and it's not like I have a corner on the market on information, that's for sure. But I had was talking about, how terms are defined and differentiating them. And I talked about the tribulation maybe being Jacob's trouble. And it's a good thing to rethink things. And it might be the martyrs or the 144,000 from Jacob's trouble combined. That time period of revelation, but it might be the martyrs. Just think it out loud again. Um, and I almost pulled a previous video. I just felt a lot of anxiety about it. But then it's like, no, just leave it alone because I don't have all the answers. But I have this, in, kind of this righteous indignation, that the pastors weren't noticing Satan released twice from the bottomless pit. And I have flip flopped back and forth a number of times, whether it's once or twice. So that's why I kind of settled down. It's all food for thought. That's all. This is a learning experience. And the reason I have flip flopped, I mostly lean toward him being released twice, once midway into Revelation and then in to toward the end on Revelation 20. But the reason I've been flip flopping is the whole structure of Revelation is like bookends. You have at the very beginning, John's vision and his message to the churches. And in at the other bookend is pretty much minimal information about the very end times. And sandwiched in that is all this um, very cryptic language describing what's going on in heaven and earth during the quote end times. And so it's not the easiest to discern. So that's why I'm going to leave it alone and, just a little bit of disclaimer. I am not a know it all. And we're going to get into this bottom portion of this slide here in a little bit. But for now, hey, let's get into dissecting Daniel's 70 weeks. And, one of my this is from one of my very first slides, outlining that there's seven prophecies and who it's addressed to, and why that seventh prophecy is separated because it incorporates Jesus' fulfillment for the Hebrew and the Gentile. Okay, and now let's get down to business. Um, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon the holy city. to finish the transgression, to make the end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Now, these are all done through Jesus. It's like incorporating essentially, to the end of the world as we know it, before the new heaven and new earth. Um, and one thing I've pondered a bit about is to anoint the most holy. Now, I had gotten into that a little bit about Jesus being anointed at his baptism, anointed with the Holy Spirit, and then anointed with oil immediately prior to his death. And I'm wondering if there is another anointing when he is seated at the right hand of God, his place in the kingdom. Okay, and let's go through this. And the blue writing is mine, and it's what it amounts to is a summary of breaking these scriptures down and summarizing what I had just outlined in the last several videos. Okay, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem, and that was done at Herod's time, approximately 20 years before Jesus' birth, the temple and the whole temple site was restored by Herod. So, and okay, unto, and I looked that word up in Strong's, and it means to the point being reached. So, from the time of Herod, the time has been reached that the Messiah, the Prince, shall be 69 weeks. And I'll break it down further. Now, Messiah the Prince is in capital letters. And when you see the other green highlight, Prince is not capitalized. So I'm reading this Messiah the Prince as godly terms, proper, what do you call it? Proper pronouns, or when you capitalize letters. I'm not getting my English terminology down this morning. But it reads like he's Messiah the Prince. He's a prince, the Son of God. Prince being son. And he has rulership during the millennial reign. And that's titled Messiah the Prince. Is kind of, that's what it looks like to me. And this is all happening um, within the 69-week time frame. Now, I've highlighted some punctuation in this, colon and semicolons, and they're much stronger than a comma. Like a semicolon would be like adding a new thought to something, but it's stronger than a comma. It's the same subject matter, if you follow me. And a semicolon is adding thoughts to a particular sentence. It could be a little bit different, but you're adding a new thought to that sentence. So that's why I highlighted it, because I don't know, it's that Freudian term. I just notice things like that. They have meaning in language. Okay, the street shall be built again and the wall, and that's what remained after the destruction of Jerusalem. Even in troublous times, Jacob's trouble. Now, I have, again, I have done what I can to substantiate these interpretations, if you will, through my other videos. Um, okay, this is at 69 weeks. And then verse 26, and after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. And, I had gone over it earlier too, but I'm wondering if there wasn't a 430-year waiting period for Messiah to arrive on the scene. And again, these things are all subject to debate, but this is uh, what I'm seeing in it. And again, the minute I get married to an idea, I'll stop learning. So this is the way I'm seeing it. Okay. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. And that's language of Jesus' death and resurrection, but not for himself. He did it for all people, the Hebrew and Gentile. And then we have a colon, and the people of the prince, and I'm going to suggest of darkness, that shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary, which happened with Titus in 70 AD, semicolon. And the end thereof shall be with a flood, and I went to Revelation 12 to show about how God swallowed up the flood to protect the woman. And unto the end of the war, desolations are determined. And that looks like end times. Okay, now in verse 26 and 27, no, I'm saying that wrong. In verse 25 and 26, it starts in 25 talking about 69 weeks, and then it's talking about 62 weeks. And these 62 weeks are a part of the 69, so it seems to be a little out of order. These are the most choppy verses ever. So there's, if you're going to put it in more chronological order, at 62 weeks, Jesus comes on the scene. And after his death, Jerusalem is destroyed. But then we're getting into his kingship during this 69-week period, and that very well could be the millennial reign. So anyway, in the blue ink, at the end of verse 26, I subtracted the 69 from the 62, which comes out to 7 weeks. Okay, that is such a godly perfect number. Something seriously special is going on. And if you multiply, it comes out to 350 years. But, numbers can be very elusive in the Bible, too. You can't assume anything with these things, and I'll show you further here in a minute that it's very difficult to pin it down. I'm sort of just thinking the 7 weeks is a time of perfection. Don't know. Really don't know. Um, okay, and then in verse 27, and he, Jesus shall confirm the covenant. And it's like all encompassing of the prophecies of salvation with many, Hebrew and Gentile, for 1 week, which is one of the 70 weeks, colon, and in the midst. So that means in the middle, it's divided somehow or it's separated by division. And the only thing I could think of in my own mind is that since Jesus had a 3.5 year ministry, there's going to be another 3.5 years inserted into this timeline. And it may have to do with bringing in his kingdom, the millennial reign. It might have something to do with fulfilling the fall feasts. I mean, I could get, well, I'm not even going to go there right now, maybe another day, but other kind of thoughts on that. Sorry about that. Okay, and then he, God, shall cause the sacrifice and oblations to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations. It just seems like it would be an abomination if people were continuing to animal sacrifices in the temple. Just thinking out loud, and that was going on. We'll say Jesus' death and resurrection was in the 30s AD. Well, it had been continuing till 70 AD. So he could have been pretty displeased with that because he came to fulfill. He was the sacrifice. Okay? And he, God, shall make it desolate even unto the consummation. And I talked about the definition of consummation, finish, the end, fulfilled. Uh, but it is a marriage bed word, I mean, is this in reference to the marriage supper of the Lamb? Maybe. And that determined, fulfilled shall be poured God's wrath upon the desolate. And God's wrath is to destroy evil, to put Satan in lockdown, to bring us into our glorified bodies. Eventually, it's a promise. It's an already but not yet. He has accomplished it, but we haven't quite laid eyes on it at this stage of the game. Um, so I just want to back up just for a second. And he, Jesus, shall confirm the covenant, all the prophecies of salvation. And when you look at the prophecies, I mean, this is what Jesus is all about, to finish the transgressions, to make an end of sin, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and prophecy. Now, are these getting unsealed? I mean, I don't have a great understanding of it. It might be unsealed in part. I'm not sure. So, okay, I want to show you some other verses in Daniel. And I've looked at these in the past in the context of the 144,002 witnesses in Revelation. They're given 1,260 days of protection. But these Daniel verses kind of put a new wrinkle on that timeline. And it's not even that I have a great understanding of what might be applicable, But it's food for thought. It's all a part of the big picture. So I'm going to read a couple, few verses here. This first one is in Daniel 12, beginning with verse 8. And I heard, but I understood not. Then said I, O Lord, what shall be the end of these things? And he said, Go thy way, Daniel, for the words are closed up and sealed till the end, till the time of the end. Okay, there's the sealing of the prophecies. Many shall be purified and made white and tried, but the wicked shall do wickedly, and none of the wicked shall understand, but the wise shall understand. And from the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away unto the abomination that will make desolate set up, there shall be 1290 days. You see, it's a different amount of time than the 1260. What? That's why I'm pointing it out. And I've always, I've never felt any surety about any of these type verses. Um, but it's a time frame that the 144,000 were protected, in advance. The beast from the bottomless pit and the 144,000 really parallel themselves throughout the book of Revelation. And what I'm getting at is that there was um, a time frame where those 144,000 were sealed by God. And we'll continue here, verse 12. Blessed is he that waits and comes to the 1335 days. So this is an additional 75 days. So what does that mean? But go thou your way, I gotta try it again. But go thou thy way till the end be, for thou shalt rest and stand in the lot at the end of the days. So I have no idea if this applies or not, but it came to mind, and it's from Revelation 12. And the woman was given two wings of an eagle that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time from the face of the serpent. Now, is this the millennial reign? I mean, are these, look at the numbers here. Jesus' millennial reign is 75 years. Now we have these 75 days kind of hanging out in Daniel. I do not know if any of this connects, but it's food for thought, gang. That's it. It's something I contemplate, and it's difficult to wrap one's mind around, but, I'm going to share what might be a possibility. And that goes back to this blessed, verse 12, blessed is he that waits and comes to 1335 days, 75 more than the 1260. And I don't know, my imagination is going, I better keep my mouth shut. I might feel like pulling the video, and I don't want to do that. Okay, and here's another um, Daniel verse that I want to share, and again in conjunction with the 1260 days in Revelation. And it's a time frame, that's why I'm bringing it up. And these are not exhaustive, but these are things that have come to my attention. Um, okay, Daniel 8:8. Therefore, the goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. Now, the four winds in heaven are mentioned pretty regularly in Revelation. Okay. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. Now, isn't that interesting scripture? The north and west are not specified, but the pleasant land is. Okay. And it waxed great, even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the host of the stars to the ground and stamped upon them. Now, there's some Revelation type verses going on when the third of the angels were cast to earth, and the stars fell from heaven. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of the sanctuary was cast out. Okay, there we go to, the Daniel's 70 weeks. And a host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. It cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. These, take a lot of chewing on these verses. Read, read, read again. What is this saying? It goes, I don't want to go off too much, but we've come down to a very dumb common denominator in our literature. I mean, texting and LOLs has really been done a number on language. Just speaking my opinion, but we're not given good information about our history, about our Bible, um, our environment, uh, the whole structure of the universe, of our earth. Okay, and I'll continue. Then I heard one saint speaking, and another saint said unto the certain saint which spake, how long shall the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and the transgression of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden down under foot? And I looked up the word host, and it's many people, many angels, and it's especially in reference to an army. And that's Strong's 6635. I didn't have, I wanted to fit all this on one slide, so it's a little abbreviated there. Okay, I'm going to read it again. How long shall be the vision concerning the daily sacrifice and transgressions of desolation to give both the sanctuary and the host to be trodden underfoot? And he said unto me, 2030 days. And there's another number, and I did some simple math, from the 1260 days in Revelation and an additional 76 months. And, when you add these things up together, it's almost 10 years. When you do it, and the 30.41 is like a solar month. I didn't do it in lunar, I did it in solar, and I trusted Google to help me with the math. Maybe that's a mistake. But again, here we have all these other time frames that can be worked into it. And does a day mean a day? Could it mean a year? Does seven have to mean seven, or is it the number of perfection? Could it just mean God's number? It's just a lot to chew on. I think I have found, you know, at least in part, making sense of Daniel's 70 weeks. Going through these things like these last numbers is enough to make my head explode, because, trying to put context to it. But it is a part of the whole picture, so that's why I included it. Um, from here, I have a couple of fun things I have in mind. I want to look at the two witnesses, which, probably be quiet for a little bit on that because, I need to roll my sleeves up and look at it, but it just takes time. Kind of want to get a handle on it before I begin. I've been flying by the seat of my pants a little bit in these Daniel verses, but I feel blessed by doing it. That's for sure. And this is not Christianity 101. It really is rolling your sleeves up and digging in. But anyway, the two witnesses, I want to look at the book of Enoch. I think there might be some helpful hints in our timeline there. And as I say, a couple of fun things I've been sitting on for a while that I would just like to relax, enjoy, and it's enjoying God's creation, at least one video and looking at the world around us with different eyes. Okay, I appreciate you stopping by, and that's my grand finale.